In a realm where darkness whispers and shadows rule, there existed a knight unlike any other. Lord Soth, once a paragon of knighthood, whose quest for redemption became a descent into damnation, from the heights of noble intentions to the depths of a cursed existence. His journey is a saga of love, betrayal, and a relentless pursuit of power. But what transforms a revered hero into a feared dreadlord of the domains of dread? And what sinister forces pushed him there? In the world of Dragonlance, the Knights of Solamnia, or the Solamnic Knights, are a strict brotherhood. These knights worked for the good of Ansalon against the mounting problems throughout the world of Dragonlance. Among them was Lord Soth, who started off as a squire, became a formidable fighter as a Knight of the Sword, and finally proved himself in order to become a Knight of the Rose. He was everything that a Solamnic Knight ought to be, following the oath and the measure to a T, saving lives, defeating evil, and upholding the order. He was a great man of passions, but those passions eventually started his descent into darkness. On one journey to a council of the knights, Soth witnessed a band of ogres attacking elf maids on a pilgrimage to become revered daughters of Paladine. He rescued the maidens, and the youngest of them, Isolde Denissa, was taken by this vision of a man. Soth returned with Isolde to his keep at Castle Dargard, making some pretense as to why he brought the woman with him. Whether by fate's hand or the clever ministrations of Soth's faithful and corrupt steward, Caradoc, Soth's heart became so tangled with Isolde's that they soon became secret lovers. His wife, Lady Gladria's response to this affair is unknown. Perhaps she grew jealous or rife with petty anger, or perhaps she secretly thanked the gods that Soth had found someone who could give him more children, as she was barren. At any rate, Lady Gladria was beset by some malady and shortly died thereafter. Some claim Soth was the one to blame for her death. And so Soth took the young Isolde as his wife, and she remained true and devoted to him, even despite rumors of foul play against his first wife. Within a month, Isolde was heavy with child, and within the first half year, Soth had Peredur, the son he had always wanted. When evidence was brought before the Knights of Solamnia that Lord Soth has broken his marriage vows, the knights besieged Dargard, demanding justice. Soth ignored them, remaining in Dargard Keep and making therein a lie for himself. But an event was looming on the horizon, an event that would change the world of Dragonlance for hundreds of years. The cataclysm, which would obliterate the great empire of Istar and change the entire surface of Krynn. Soth repented his sins, and Isolde beseeched her god Mishakal at a chance for redemption for Soth. And so Soth saw a vision of the destruction that the king priest would cause, the result of the cataclysm, and received a quest to stop the madness. Though the quest was very clear, Soth would have to sacrifice his life, but he would save the world in doing so. Strengthened by Isolde's love, Lord Soth rode forth, but on this journey he encountered Isolde's former companions, the Elven women. Ashamed by their failure to rescue Isolde from Soth's seduction, sought to ensure his undoing. They threatened to reveal Soth's deeds and spoke lies to him of Isolde's infidelities. In anger, Soth turned back from his quest to punish his wife, the alleged faithless. Returning to Dargard, he confronted Isolde, accusing her of betrayal, and as he moved to strike her down, the cataclysm struck. The great chandelier in the hall crashed to the floor, and in the resulting flames, Isolde and her child were consumed. Desperate, Isolde held out the child for Soth to rescue him, but Soth turned away in anger. Then did Isolde curse him. As the fire consumed him, so did her curse, and from the ashes of his burned manor, he became an unliving, yet undead creature of the dark. His wife's curse doomed him for eternity to remain in the world, living one tormented lifetime for each lifetime his folly had brought to an end. Soth's castle and armor were charred and blackened by the fire, and he became the Knight of the Black Rose. His dark land was renamed Nightland, and there he sat, brooding on his fate. The elven maidens who brought his downfall became ceaselessly keening banshees who circled his throne. The 13 knights, who still remained loyal to him throughout his evil deeds, became skeletal warriors under his command. This was just the beginning of Soth's story. Most of Solamnia was spared the physical destruction of the cataclysm, but the country became overrun with monsters of all types. The knighthood tried valiantly, if somewhat futilely, to fight these hordes, but after years and years of such attacks, people's faith in the knights began to dwindle. The story of Lord Soth began to circulate, and the reputation of the knighthood that had stood for generations became blighted by his foul deeds. People publicly jeered the oath and the measure they followed, and words escalated into violence. Knights were foully murdered, their castles and homes invaded and burned, and their families slaughtered or driven into exile. Knights of Solamnia faded from view. Centuries later, Lord Soth was still moping in his castle when the evil god Takesis launched the War of the Lance to conquer Kryn, and she wanted Lord Soth to assist her armies. He informed Takesis he would only be willing to serve one of her top generals that had enough courage and strength to survive one night in Dargard Keep. And the Blue Lady, Kitiara Uthmatar, accepted this challenge. Kitiara survived the night, winning Soth's service and his devotion. From here on out, Soth is a very powerful puppet of Kitiara, saving her on many occasions, kidnapping and killing for her. By the end of this war, Soth vowed his undying service to Kitiara. Several years after this war, Soth would again assist Kitiara during the Blue Lady's War, and Soth's passion became a problem once again. Soth, like many others, had fallen in love with her, and hoped that the invasion would be her doom, planning to take her soul after she died, to force her to spend eternity with him. When Kitiara and her forces invaded Palanthas, Soth led the vanguard, breaking the city's great gate and slaughtering everything in his path, finally claiming his vengeance on the city that had played a pivotal role in his downfall. And he reached the tower, where he found Kitiara dying of a wound inflicted by a former lover of hers, Dalamar the Dark. Soth entered the tower to claim her soul for his own, but she was protected by a third lover of hers, Tanis Half-Elven. Soth and Dalamar convinced Tanis to let his feelings for her go, and Soth just carried away the body of the only creature he considered his equal, intent on taking her soul. Caradoc, Soth's faithful servant, who is said to have actually voluntarily walked into the fire that had killed Soth, killing himself to become immortal, betrayed Soth, because while Soth was attacking the tower, Caradoc traveled to the outer plane of Beator in the Abyss to carry out Soth's true plan. He went to retrieve Kitiara's soul so that Soth could bring her back, and he was successful. He used his medallion of office, a badge with a twisted red rose, darkened with rust, to trap her, though he returned to Dargard Keep and hid the medallion and used it as blackmail to make Soth return him to life. The plan backfired. They fought. Soth scattered Caradoc's bones and then broke the ghost's neck. And in that moment, a thick mist appeared and took them both away. And Lord Soth and Caradoc would start an entirely new story in Ravenloft. Lord Soth, the Death Knight, the fallen knight of the Solamnic Orders, now reigns from Nedragard Keep, a gift from the Dark Powers. When he was whisked away, the castle taunts him mercilessly. It constantly changes size and shape so that he cannot maintain the flawless military order to which he is accustomed. Further, boredom presses hard on Soth's eternal soul. No conquests remain for him in Sithikis, the domain where he rules. And 35 years of nothing to do but torment elves has left Soth depressed and despondent. Soth's greatest desire is still to possess Kitiara, and it would appear the Dark Powers have granted him the opportunity to do so, because at one point Soth hears rumors that a dark-haired warrior woman who matches Kitiara's description is wandering the hills of his domain, Sithicus, and Soth's destiny is pursuing her endlessly, yet he never catches more than echoes of her passing. Despite all of these tormenting conditions, Lord Soth remained a highly active Dark Lord for 20 years. With the aid of his 13 skeletal knights that followed him in life, he fought a horrible war against the wild elves of his domain, a people he hated. Over the years and years, Soth fought many wars and had many enemies, and his enemies over time coveted the lands of Sithicus that he ruled. They joined together, and the culmination of this conspiracy against Soth came to a single night, a series of supernatural events to reshape Sithicus. And just like Dragard Keep centuries before, Nedragard Keep was set ablaze in the fight. And just as Soth was about to finally defeat his enemies, someone appeared. The being that Soth thought was Kitiara, but instead was Isolde Danissa, his second wife, who had cursed him. She had come to remind Soth of the curse she gave him, and to deliver the judgment he thought he had been escaping for hundreds of years. She conjured an image of their son, the one that he had turned from. In the first fire, Soth repeated history, turning away from the child again in the midst of this tragedy. Thus, the last of his memory returned, and he gazed upon the fullness of his acts, whether for good or evil, and he was taken from Ravenloft. All of the people of Sithicus believe him dead, but Soth actually returned to Krynn, where his story goes on. Soth's story is far from over, and it seems no matter how hard any try against him, whatever events, he always fails. He's whisked away, unsuccessful in his current attempts, but by some means the world of either Ravenloft or Dragonlance gives him a second chance. Soth does appear in 5th edition, and he is the template of the Death Knight. At this point in D&D lore, he is more of a looming figure. He even gets a paragraph in the description of the Death Knight, because after all, it is completely modeled after him. Lord Soth is one of the foundational D&D characters. No matter what happens, he is a villain, and he almost will always lose. Each edition, you can see his failures. In each edition, he comes back for violence, war, murder, and maybe some adultery. And this concludes the enigmatic tale of Lord Soth, a saga where valor turned to darkness, redemption became unreachable. And as he is whisked back and forth from Dragonlance to Ravenloft, wherever Soth is, he is made to suffer, forever cursed, a testament that even the greatest can be consumed by the shadows they once sought to vanquish.